The trouble that we get into with debt is that there's not a simple interest. That is not a linear curve. I paid off $138,000 in student loan debt in under 3 years. When I did that, just like the relief of burden, feeling as if I was shackled, I was finally free. I did it without working more or earning more. In this video today, I'm going to teach you how to pay off your debt without earning more. Hello again and welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Brittany Halford, your internal medicine physician and your wealth and wellness coach. Today, we're going to talk about debt from a purpose of motivating our payoff so that we gain momentum and we don't exhaust ourselves. Because if there's one thing that I've learned by being a wife, a mother, a physician, a wealth coach, doing this YouTube channel, is that our energy is limited. I'm going to teach you how to pay off your debt without losing momentum, without burning out. Now, I want you to take this journey with me for a second, okay? Just close your eyes and imagine yourself being in this situation. We've gotten ourselves in a bit of a predicament. We are trapped in a room and our shoes are stuck in the ground. We can't seem to slide our feet out. Now you look all around you and you see that there's some things in the room with you. There's a hammer just a little bit over there. Then over on this side, there's some rope, a nail clipper, randomly a potato. You have these 4 items and you start to think about, how can I get myself out? Then there's a little voice that comes in and says, don't you try to escape, because you can't use any of these items that you see around you because they are all cemented into the ground. How does that make you feel? It makes you feel fixed. Maybe you have the sentiment of doom and gloom. You're never going to get out of here. You have that sympathetic drive going up. Your cortisol starts to elevate. You start to sweat. Your brain starts to ruminate. Oh my gosh, I'm going to die. You get into this sheer panic. And what also happens is that you get paralyzed and you can't think about anything else and you don't even try to get out. That's a situation that perpetuates inaction. All right, so let's get rid of that scenario and let's do another one, okay? Imagine how you would feel if you're in the same room, you're trapped, your feet are stuck to the ground and you see the same things. But in this instance, there's no voice that tells you that those items are fixed. You start to think creatively, how am I going to get myself out of this predicament? I feel stuck, but I know that there are some tools that are just within my reach if I try. You start to reach for that rope, almost there. You can reach for the nail clipper and you can pinch the rope and pull it towards you, and then you can use that rope and you can get a lasso and you can bring that hammer over. You get your feet loose and you climb yourself out. When you feel that things are not fixed, that there are some tools and resources that you can grab a hold of and that you can use in a creative fashion, then you can loosen yourself from the bondage of wherever you are. I know you're like, Brittany, this is a crazy scenario. What type of sci-fi horror films have you been watching? When you're paying off your debt, I think sometimes you can put your mindset in a couple of ways. You can be in that first scenario in which you feel like you are fixed, like things are out of your control, that you have no resources or tools in your armamentarium to utilize to get yourself out of debt. That you've been trying, you've been thinking, but everything is out of reach. Or you could put yourself in that second scenario in which things are still out of reach. But you know psychologically, mentally, that if you try hard enough, if you are creative, if you just reach, then you can create some type of resource that is going to propel you forward, that is going to allow you to exit that room and so that you can obtain your freedom. Listen, I was right there with you. When I graduated from medical school with $131,000 and I saw debt accumulate, I was under public service loan forgiveness, and I didn't know what student loan forgiveness was going to be. I started to get afraid. When you're afraid, when you operate under a mindset of fear and you're fixed, that there is limitations there, that there is limitation for creativity and there's a limitation for being resourceful. And when you are paying down debt, but you don't want to work anymore, that you feel that you have some components of your finances that are fixed, it requires you to be creative. It requires for you to be strategic. It requires you to be resourceful. That is my first strategy that I want to give you today when you're paying off your debt you have a fixed income that you still want to pay off your debt, then I am challenging you to step into your control and step into your creativity. Because when those two things align, you're going to figure out a way to pay off your debt. Now, when I say earn more money, that's through your employer. You don't want to exchange your energy to go to work, your 9-to-5, your W-2 income, or your 1099 to earn additional income from that perspective. But we all know there are ways to earn more money that can be active, but less active and less draining. I encourage you to tap into your energy. What gives you energy? There are people who love to paint. Actually, I have a client who absolutely loves to paint. She does beautiful artwork. And she came to me feeling as if she would never get herself out of debt. She had a lot of consumer debt. She was very highly educated and had worked in the healthcare field for many years. She operated under this mindset of oblivion. I'll do what's necessary, but I'm not going to do anymore. It is what it is. I will never pay this off. And once we started to get creative, to shift her mindset, then she was able to use that creativity to come up with a strategy. Now her debt payoff is achievable. She has more joy. And she was utilizing her skill to create beautiful art pieces to sell them for additional income. Another way that you might do this is that there are things that are around your house that are in your closet that you're not using. There are tools and resources that you have available but you're not really utilizing. That can be utilized in a different way to generate cash flow. Now, I'm frugal Franny. If you didn't know that about me, born and raised to savers, it's just in my genetics. This dress that I'm wearing today is actually a hand-me-down from my best friend. I didn't have to pay for this dress. It's still a very nice fitting quality dress. That's why I wore it today to showcase it on this YouTube video. And she didn't sell it to me, but she could have generated some income. Of course, it would have been cheaper than me actually going to J. Crew and buying the dress myself. And so there are things that you have available as resources that another person will value. They will give you, in exchange for that, some cash that you can apply to your debt. Another way that you can pay down your debt without earning any more money is to just pay it twice a month. It sounds simple, but too often we don't do it. And to be honest, the banks have caught on to this and they don't allow you to set it up automatically. Some of the banks, and this is something that you'll have to research, actually, if you pay early, they'll store that money away until you get a complete payment. Then they'll make that contribution to your account. I've only seen that in the case of mortgages. If you're considering paying twice a month and it's not the full payment, it's just a small payment but not the minimum payment, then you would want to call your bank just to better understand what they will do with that payment if it's not a full complete payment. But the reason for doing this, if the banks allow you to do it and they're not just storing that cash away to wait for a full payment, is that you can take that minimum payment, cut it in half. There are nurses, doctors that I've worked with, and one of the reasons why they come to me is that they have debt and they're living paycheck to paycheck. So to make any additional payment on that debt initially is difficult until they start working with me, of course. But if just some simple tactics that I can give them off the bat is take that payment and cut it in half and pay twice a month. When that money applies to your account, it helps you in a couple of ways. The first way that it helps your account, especially for high interest credit card, is it reduces your balance. If you think about how interest is calculated for credit cards, is that they calculate it based upon your average daily balance, the balance that is carried on your account each day, and then they apply a percentage of your annual percentage rate to that average daily balance to calculate your interest fee at the end of the month. And so if you make that payment at the beginning of your billing cycle, then you've reduced that average daily balance that is going to be carried forward. When that interest fee is calculated, it is calculated on a lower amount. Another thing that you can do is to pay your payment earlier in the billing cycle. And that whole payment would apply and reduce that balance that is carried forward each month. But when you split the payment in two, you're basically paying the same amount, but you're reducing that average daily balance. When you pay twice a month, even if it's the same total amount, that gives 26 payment cycles. It takes 2 payment cycles to equal a full month in theory. When you pay twice a month, if you're doing 2 payment cycles to equal a full month and you have 26 cycles, that means that you contributed or made 13 payments. But when you look at a calendar year, because the months are imbalanced, then there are only 12 months in a year. But if you pay bi-weekly, if you pay every 2 weeks, then you actually make an additional payment without even knowing it. That's going to reduce your interest. The trouble that we get into with debt is that there's not a simple interest. That is not a linear curve. It is exponential. You have the debt and then the debt starts to accumulate and it starts to compound and it grows. That's why we get into trouble. You want to limit that exponential interval growth rate of your debt by paying it more frequently and decreasing the interest fee that is charged. For many of us, the payments that you make may not cover the interest that is charged. But it's really important to reduce interest as soon as possible so we can minimize that compounding effect. I said we would do away with that first scenario, that one where you're trapped in a room and everything is fixed and you can't get out. But I actually want to take you there. I want you to put yourself back in that room. Do you feel that there's nothing that you can do within your control to get yourself out of this room? But then there was a voice who chimed in, who was watching you, and they expressed some of the limitations to what you could and could not do, but they're also a person or a business entity who has their own particular interest. That is why you're actually trapped in this room. You may be saying, Brittany, where are you going with this? Oftentimes when we have debt, when we've tried so many things, we forget that on the other side of our debt is a company or a business who has its own interest, who has its own desires, who has you with debt for a reason because they want your money. Although you feel like I don't have any money to pay down this debt and that they are the master and you are the servant, there is something that the master wants. What I encourage you to do, if you don't want to exchange your time and your energy to earn more money, but you still desire to pay down your debt, it's for you to negotiate. Everything is negotiable, okay? Listen, I learned this from my mother. She is the queen of negotiation. When I was growing up, she would say, Brittany, why are you afraid to ask? The worst case scenario is that they tell you no. But if you don't ask, then you have a definite no. If you figure out a way to negotiate, to speak to the interest of that party, to articulate your value, then there's a possibility that you can get what you want. I've always called, negotiated, because I understood that person and that business, they want something from me. That I am not completely powerless. When you feel like things are fixed, when you feel like you are trapped, you cannot think creatively. You cannot stand in your power. You cannot own your value. But you have value to the student loan company, to the car loan company, to the banks, to the credit card companies, to whomever, to even your boss. You don't have to exchange your time and energy for more money. You can negotiate a higher salary. You can negotiate more benefits that may offset some of the costs that you're currently paying. Maybe you have a monthly gym membership because exercise helps you to get mental clarity. It helps you to feel better, and I encourage that. I think when we focus holistically on our health and on our wellness, then our finances also thrive. You're paying that expense out of pocket, and maybe your boss said that your salary is fixed. How about some additional benefits? I know that some of the other companies offer to their employees to subsidize an exercise plan or a gym membership. Then you can ask for that. That has value to you and can offset an expense that you can put towards your debt. Negotiate the salary, but think more broadly outside of just salary negotiations. You can also negotiate with the credit card company. I've done this multiple times. Now, I don't carry a balance on my credit cards, but I do use credit cards strategically. You can negotiate a lower interest rate. We talked about the exponential growth of interest, and that's why debt becomes so debilitating. I want you to stand in your power. You have it. You did not become a healthcare professional because you didn't have skill sets, that you weren't disciplined. You have all of those things. Now you just have to build them into your finances, in which no one teaches us how to do. Give yourself grace and allow yourself to now have that mental space to think creatively, to stand in your power, and to negotiate. All right, you got this. If you're a woman in healthcare and you're just trying to really figure out this money thing because no one teaches us how to manage our money, then I want you to consider scheduling a call with me. Maybe you're like, Brittany, I am at the point in which I don't know what the next steps are. I've tried everything, but I know that where I am, I don't want to be here in 3 months. I don't want to be here in 6 months. There's an opportunity for us to work together. I would love to meet with you and to get to know what your needs are, to see if my coaching aligns with that, that there is some congruency in which we can work together to help you to achieve your goal without sacrificing joy. Because that's what I do. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. And if you haven't learned about my debt journey of how I paid this all off and some of the details of my life, then watch this video here. Yeah, I share a little bit more dancing and things on this video. If you want to see me bust a move, then you can enjoy watching that here. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.